The blue light of the emergency alarm woke Captain Lisa Murphy from her sleep. Her quarters aboard the United Earth Defense Station Orion, filled with the soft but urgent tone. She rubbed her eyes and grabbed her uniform. "Captain Murphy to Command Center, urgent," came the voice over the intercom. 5 minutes later, Lisa walked into the busy command center. Officers moved quickly between stations. Screens showed a small ship that had appeared near Jupiter's orbit. "Report," she said. Commander Alan Fisher turned to her. "Unknown vessel appeared 30 minutes ago. Not from Earth or any of our colonies. It's damaged and moving slowly." Lisa looked at the main screen. The ship was unlike any human design. It had smooth blue-green metal with odd curves. Parts of it were broken open to space. "Any contact?" she asked. "Yes, but we don't understand their language. We're running it through the translation system now." The screen changed to show a thin, pale blue creature. It had 4 arms and large eyes that took up most of its face. It spoke with soft clicks and whistles. "Translation complete," said the computer. The creature's voice changed to English. "Please help. We are the Cerulean. Our worlds are gone. The Krell hunt us. You are our last hope." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. First contact with aliens had happened 5 years ago, but this was different. These aliens were running from something. "I'm Captain Lisa Murphy of Earth. How did you find us?" "Your radio signals. We followed them for many years. We hoped to find friends. Our scanners show you are warriors like the Krell, but also builders like us. Please, we have nowhere else to go." Lisa ordered medical teams to prepare and security to stand by. "We'll send help, but our teams must come armed. It's our way when meeting someone new." "We understand. We have only 212 survivors. Many need medical care." 2 hours later, Lisa stepped into the alien ship with Dr. Sam Carter and a team of soldiers and medics. The air smelled strange but breathable. The halls were dark with emergency lights only. They found the Cerulean waiting. Up close, the aliens were about 5 feet tall with skin that shifted between blue and green. They looked weak and thin. "I am Zoril," said the one who had spoken on the video. "Thank you for coming." Dr. Carter scanned them with medical equipment. "They're malnourished but similar enough to us that we can help them," he told Lisa. Throughout the ship, they found more Cerulean. Some were injured. Some were very young. All looked afraid. In what seemed to be a control room, Zoril showed them recordings. The images showed beautiful cities with tall crystal towers. Then came ships like giant black insects. The recording showed the insect ships firing weapons that turned the crystal cities to dust. "The Krell," said Zoril. "They take everything. Resources, people. They eat worlds until nothing is left. 53 civilizations that we know of are gone. Ours is the latest." Lisa watched as the recording showed the Cerulean fighting back with light-based weapons, but they were no match for the Krell ships. "How many ships escaped?" she asked. 12. We don't know if the others survived." Back on the station, Lisa called Earth. The United Earth Security Council appeared on her screen. "We have refugees," she said, "and a warning about a species called the Krell. Are you certain their story is true?" asked Councilman Joe Dawson. "Our scans confirm their ship was in battles. The damage matches their story, and the fear in their eyes is real." The council debated for an hour before making a decision. "Bring them to Earth Station Alpha," said Council President Maria Blake. "We will hear their full story." As Lisa ended the call, Alan approached her. "Do you think they're leading the Krell to us?" Lisa looked at the image of the damaged Cerulean ship. "No, but even if they are, we can't turn away people who need help. That's not who we are." What she didn't say was the thought that kept running through her mind. If these Krell had destroyed 53 civilizations, Earth might soon face the greatest threat in human history. 7 days passed since the Cerulean arrived at Earth Station Alpha. A special room was set up in the main conference hall for their presentation. World leaders, military chiefs, and top scientists gathered to hear their story. Major John Russell stood at the back of the room. His combat medals caught the light as he crossed his arms. He did not trust these aliens. 20 years of military service had taught him caution. "They look harmless enough," said Dr. Olivia Bennett beside him. She studied alien cultures and had spent the most time with the Cerulean. "So do many deadly things in nature," John replied. "Their story seems too perfect, too designed to get our help." Zoril and 5 other Cerulean entered the room. They moved with gentle, flowing steps. Their skin shifted colors with their emotions, now a deep blue that Dr. Bennett said meant respect and sadness. "Thank you for allowing us to speak," Zoril said. His voice was soft, but clear through the translator. "We will show you what we face, what you may soon face." The lights dimmed. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a beautiful world with 3 moons, cities made of crystal and living plants spread across blue plains. The Cerulean in the recording looked healthier, their skin bright with patterns. Then the image changed. Dark ships entered the atmosphere. They looked like giant insects with sharp angles and black metal shells. Weapons fired from their sides. "The Krell arrived without warning," Zoril explained. "They sent no messages. They'd made no demands." The hologram showed Cerulean cities falling. Their defense ships tried to fight back, but were quickly destroyed. Then came the ground forces, tall insect-like creatures with 6 limbs and hard shells. They'd moved with terrible purpose. John leaned forward when the hologram showed the Krell soldiers up close. They had no eyes that he could see, just sensors across their head plates. Their front limbs ended in tools that could change shape, sometimes weapons, sometimes cutting tools. The next images made people in the room gasp. The Krell had set up processing centers. Cerulean adults were sorted into groups. Some were simply killed. Others were taken to huge machines that harvested their bodies for resources. The worst part showed Cerulean children being placed in special containers. "They keep our young as food," Zoril said. His skin had turned almost white. "The Krell consume other species. They see us as either threats to remove or resources to use." John felt his stomach turn. He had seen war crimes before, but nothing like this. The hologram changed again to show star maps. 53 worlds marked in red. "All these civilizations are gone," Zoril explained. "The Krell take everything useful, then move to the next world. They'd follow a pattern, moving system by system. We studied this pattern. Earth is in their path." President Christopher Mason stood up. "How long do we have?" "Based on their speed, perhaps 30 Earth years before they find you naturally. But if they detect your signals or our presence here, it could be much sooner." The room filled with urgent whispers. General Stephanie Carter approached the hologram controls. "Can you show us their weaknesses, ship designs, weapon systems?" Zoril nodded. "We will share everything we know. We have fought them for generations, but we are builders, not warriors. Each time we created a new defense, they adapted. But perhaps your different thinking can find what we missed." Later that evening, John found himself in the viewing lounge with Dr. Bennett. They watched Earth turning below them. "Do you still think they're lying?" she asked. John shook his head. No one could fake that level of fear, or those images. He turned to her. "But that means we're facing something worse than anything in human history." Dr. Bennett looked at the stars. "The Council votes tomorrow on whether to help the Cerulean and prepare for war." "They'll vote yes," John said, "not just because it's the right thing to do, but because we have no choice. Those Krell will come for us eventually." Across the station, in a secure room, President Mason reviewed the Cerulean data with his advisors. The decision before them was clear but terrible. Helping the Cerulean meant Earth would enter its first interstellar war. Not helping them meant abandoning innocence to monsters. As the night cycle began on the station, few people slept. Humanity stood at a crossroads that would change their future forever. Admiral Frank Davis stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Valiant. 4 other ships flew in formation around them. This small fleet was the first human military force to travel so far from Earth. They had arrived at the edge of what used to be Cerulean space. "Status report," Frank said to his crew. "All systems normal, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Kate Williams from the tactical station. "We're hidden in the shadow of the gas giant as planned." The Cerulean maps were accurate. Frank nodded. The Security Council had voted to send this reconnaissance mission to see the Krell threat firsthand. They needed to know if the Cerulean stories were true. "Long-range scans are picking up activity around the fourth planet," said Officer Ben Harris, putting it on screen now. The main screen showed a green world. It had once been a Cerulean colony with millions of people. Now Krell ships surrounded it. Huge machines cut into the planet's surface. Smoke rose from vast facilities built across what used to be cities. Frank felt cold anger rising in his chest. "Magnify Sector 3. The image zoomed in on a processing facility. Lines of captured Cerulean moved into the buildings. None came out. "Recording everything," Kate said quietly. Her hands moved over her console. "I'm analyzing their ship designs and defenses. They have patterns, weaknesses we could exploit." For 6 hours, they watched and recorded. The Krell worked with machine-like efficiency. They stripped resources, processed captives, and loaded everything onto transport ships. "They're not just killing, they're harvesting," Frank said. The Cerulean weren't exaggerating. Kate looked up from her station. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis. Their ships have strong frontal armor, but weaker protection on their lower sections. Their energy signatures suggest their power systems are concentrated in one area. A targeted strike could disable their largest vessels." "Good work, Lieutenant. Any sign they've detected us?" "No, sir. Their sensors seem focused on the planet. As long as we stay in the gas giant's shadow, we should remain hidden." Frank was about to order more scans when alarms sounded across the bridge. "Energy spike in engineering," Officer Harris shouted. "The new drive system is having a power fluctuation." "Shut it down," Frank ordered. "Trotting, sir." A pulse of energy radiated from the Valiant. It lasted only seconds, but it was enough. "Admiral, Krell ships are changing course," Kate reported, her voice tense. "They've detected us. 5 vessels approaching at high speed." Frank hit the shipwide comm. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." The Krell ships moved with surprising speed. They didn't attempt communication. Their weapons powered up as they approached. "They're targeting our engines," Kate warned. "Evasive maneuvers." The Valiant shuddered as it moved out of the gas giant's shadow. The other Earth ships formed a defensive pattern. "Return fire. Targeted strikes on their power centers," Frank ordered. Earth weapons hit the lead Krell ship. Its armor held, but it slowed briefly. "They're adapting their approach," Kate said. "They're focusing on the Intrepid now." Frank watched as 3 Krell ships surrounded the smallest human vessel. Their weapons tore through its shields. The Intrepid exploded in a ball of fire and debris. "Get our people out of here," Frank said. His voice was calm but firm. "Prepare emergency jump coordinates." Another blast hit the Valiant. The lights flickered. "The Dauntless is hit badly," Officer Harris reported. "They've lost power and life support." "We can't leave them," Kate said. Frank made the hardest decision of his career. Send rescue shuttles. Buy them 5 minutes, then everyone jumps. The remaining Earth ships fought fiercely. Their weapons caused some damage to the Krell vessels, but more enemy ships were approaching. The rescue shuttles returned with survivors from the Dauntless. Frank gave the order to jump. As the Valiant prepared for emergency faster than light travel, Frank looked one last time at the Krell ships. They made no attempt to communicate, showed no interest in anything but destruction. "They really don't negotiate," he said quietly. The jump engines engage. The fleet vanished into FTL, carrying with them the certainty that Earth faced an enemy unlike any they had known before. An enemy that would offer no peace, no mercy, and no compromise. What had begun as a reconnaissance mission would end as a declaration of war. The United Earth Security Council chamber was silent as Admiral Frank Davis finished his report. The images from the reconnaissance mission played on the large screen. 23 council members sat around the curved table, their faces grim. "We lost 2 ships and 47 crew members," Frank said. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed his pain. The Krell attacked without warning or any attempt to communicate. President Christopher Mason looked at the images of the Krell processing facilities. So the Cyrillen were telling the truth. Every word, Frank confirmed. The Krell are harvesting planets systematically. Based on Lieutenant Williams' analysis of their movement patterns, they will eventually find Earth. It's not a question of if, but when. General Stephanie Carter stood up. She was the highest-ranking military officer on Earth. The reconnaissance mission gathered valuable intelligence on Krell ship designs and potential weaknesses. But we need to be clear about what we're facing. Their technology is advanced. Their numbers are vast. If we choose to fight, this will not be a quick or easy war. The room filled with worried voices. Council members argued about risks and options. Professor Alan Pearson, a respected ethicist, raised his hand for attention. "We face a moral choice, not just a military one. If we do nothing, the Krell will continue to exterminate other species. Eventually, they will find Earth. Can we live with ourselves knowing we could have acted but chose not to? But is this our fight?" asked Councilwoman Helen Taylor. "The Cyrillen brought this danger to our doorstep." Zorel had been invited to the meeting. The Cyrillen ambassador's skin had turned a pale blue. "We understand your fear. We felt it too when we first learned of the Krell. Each civilization they have destroyed faced this same choice. Most tried to hide. All were found eventually." Admiral Davis pointed to the tactical displays. Lieutenant Williams discovered something important. The Krell have never faced an enemy that fights the way humans do. Their tactics suggest they expect opponents to either run or defend, not to attack aggressively. President Mason stood up and walked to the window. Earth was visible below the space station, beautiful and blue. "How long before they find us if we do nothing?" "Based on their current pattern, 20 to 30 years, Frank answered. "Less if they detected our reconnaissance mission's jump signature." "And if we fight?" asked General Carter. "Then we choose the battlefield. We strike first, on our terms." The debate continued for hours. Scientists presented data on Krell biology based on scans from the mission. Military leaders outlined possible strategies. Economists calculated the cost of converting Earth's industries to war production. Finally, President Mason called for quiet. "We must vote. The question before us is not just whether to help the Cyrillen, but whether humanity will stand against the extermination of sentient beings." The vote took place in silence. One by one, council members pressed buttons on their consoles. The final tally appeared on the screen. 18 votes for war, 5 against. President Mason looked at each person in the room. "Today, humanity makes a stand not just for our own survival, but for the right of all intelligent species to exist without fear of extinction. We will fight the Krell. We will stop their harvest of worlds." He turned to General Carter. "Prepare our forces." As the council members filed out, Frank found himself standing next to Professor Pearson. "I've never voted for war before," the professor said quietly. "I've spent my life studying ethics and peace." "Why did you vote yes?" Frank asked. "Because sometimes the most ethical choice is to fight. When faced with an enemy that offers no compromise, no mercy, and threatens not just us but all life, peace becomes surrender." Pearson looked at the images of Krell ships still frozen on the screen. "And surrender means extinction." That night, President Mason addressed the people of Earth. He explained the Cyrillen situation and the Krell threat. He announced that for the first time in history, humanity had declared war on an alien species. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The age of interstellar war had begun. Earth changed in the 18 months after the war declaration. Factory lines that once made cars now built ship parts. Children learned about Krell biology in school. Recruitment centers opened in every city. Captain Greg Daniels walked through the largest shipyard in orbit around Earth. He led the engineering team that worked with Cyrillian scientists to improve Earth's weapons. 50 new warships were under construction around him. Workers in spacesuits moved between the metal frames. "The new pulse cannons are ready for testing," said Linda Chen, his deputy engineer. She handed him a tablet with test results. "They can penetrate Krell armor twice as effectively as our previous weapons." Greg nodded. "And the shield modifications. The Cyrillian energy diffusion technology works. Our shields can now hold against Krell weapons for 3 times longer." They entered a large workshop where a captured Krell ship part was being studied. The black metal looked almost alive under the bright lights. Cyrillian engineers worked alongside humans, their blue-green skin shifting with colors as they concentrated. One of the Cyrillian approached Greg. "Captain Daniels, we have made progress. The Krell communication system uses frequencies we can now track. This will help your ships find their fleet movements." "Good work, Nilara," Greg said. He had learned to tell the Cyrillian apart by the unique patterns on their skin. Nilara was one of the best engineers among them. A loud alarm sounded throughout the shipyard. Everyone moved to the nearest viewing port. A massive ship moved slowly into view, escorted by smaller vessels. "The Defiance is complete," Linda said with pride in her voice. The Defiance was the largest warship ever built by humans. It combined Earth technology with Cyrillian insights. It carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Greg's tablet beeped. A message from Admiral Davis appeared. "Construction ahead of schedule. First strike planned in 2 weeks. Prepare final weapon tests." At the main Earth Defense Force base in North America, Colonel Susan Wright watched her mixed human-Cyrillian unit train. The Cyrillian were not natural soldiers, but they were learning quickly. Their ability to change skin color made them excellent for stealth operations. Again, Susan ordered as the soldiers ran through the combat simulation. "The Krell will not give you time to think. Your reactions must be instant." A young lieutenant approached her. "Colonel, General Carter wants to see you. It's about Operation First Strike." In the command center, General Carter showed Susan a star map. "Admiral Davis will lead the attack fleet to this former Cyrillian colony. Intelligence suggests there are thousands of Cyrillian prisoners still alive in the processing centers. Your mixed unit will lead the ground assault to free them." Susan studied the map. "My troops are ready, General. The Cyrillian in my unit are especially motivated. Many have family who might be among the prisoners." "This mission is about more than rescue," General Carter said. "It's the first test of our new weapons and tactics. The entire war effort depends on its success." On the other side of the base, Dr. Olivia Bennett made a breakthrough in her research lab. She had spent months studying Krell communication patterns from the data gathered during the reconnaissance mission. "I've got it," she said to her team. "The Krell use a form of hive communication. They send constant signals back to control centers. If we can disrupt these signals, we might be able to confuse their troops." Her assistant, Ryan Cooper, looked excited, like cutting off a limb from the brain. "Exactly. And I think we can create a device that mimics their control signals. We could potentially issue false commands." Across Earth, preparations continued day and night. The global economy had shifted entirely to war production. Old enemies became allies against the common threat. The first joint human-Cyrillian military units completed their training. In orbit, the United Earth Fleet grew from 50 vessels to over 300. Each ship carried weapons specifically designed to target Krell weaknesses. Admiral Frank Davis stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching Earth turn below. Soon he would lead the largest battle fleet in human history to strike back at the Krell, to show them that attacking the friends of humanity was a terrible mistake. He thought of the Cyrillian children in those processing centers. of the 53 civilizations already destroyed. His resolve hardened. The Krell had never faced humans in battle. They were about to learn why that was a serious error. The attack fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cyrillan colony system. 120 Earth ships arranged themselves in battle formation. The massive Defiance led them, with Admiral Frank Davis standing calmly on its bridge. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his communications officer. Frank looked at the tactical display. Long-range scans showed 23 Krell ships around the planet. The Krell had not yet noticed the human fleet. "Begin Operation First Strike," Frank ordered. "Lieutenant Williams, you have tactical command." Kate Williams had been promoted after her analysis of Krell weaknesses proved valuable. She now coordinated the fleet's attack plan. "First wave, advance," she ordered. "Target their communication arrays first, then power centers. Remember your approach vectors." 40 Earth ships moved forward. They used the system's asteroid belt for cover. The Krell remained unaware until the Earth ships were almost upon them. The first shots hit the Krell vessels precisely where Kate had identified weaknesses. 3 enemy ships lost power immediately. The others turned to fight, but they seemed confused by the human tactics. "They expected us to attack from the front," Kate observed. "They don't adapt quickly to surprises." The space around the planet lit up with weapons fire. Earth ships moved in complex patterns, hitting and moving away before the Krell could respond. The new pulse cannons tore through Krell armor. But the Krell fought back hard. Their main weapons were devastating when they hit. 5 Earth ships exploded in the first exchange. "Second wave, move in," Frank ordered. "Colonel Wright, prepare your landing teams." In the Defiance's troop bay, Colonel Susan Wright checked her armor one last time. Around her, 200 soldiers did the same. Among them were 50 Cyrillan fighters, their skin dark gray for battle. "We drop in 5 minutes," Susan told her troops. "Our mission is to reach the main processing center and free the prisoners. The fleet will keep the Krell ships busy." Outside, the battle grew more intense. The Krell began to adapt to human tactics, focusing their fire on smaller Earth vessels. 10 more human ships were damaged or destroyed. But the humans had numbers on their side. For the first time, the Krell faced an enemy that could match their firepower. And unlike the Cyrillan, humans fought with a mix of discipline and unpredictability that confused the hive-minded Krell. "We've created an opening," Kate reported. "Colonel Wright's teams can drop now." 20 dropships launched from the Defiance's bay. They raced toward the planet's surface, escorted by fighter craft. Krell ground defenses fired at them. 3 dropships were hit and fell burning through the atmosphere. Susan's ship shook violently as it descended. "Steady," she told her troops. "Remember your training." They landed 2 miles from the main processing facility. As the doors opened, they got their first look at a Krell-occupied world. The once beautiful Cyrillan city was now a wasteland of metal structures and mining pits. "Move out," Susan ordered. Her troops advanced quickly. Human soldiers took the lead, with Cyrillan fighters providing guidance through the ruins of their former colony. They encountered the first Krell ground forces within minutes. The Krell soldiers were even more frightening in person than in the recordings. 7 feet tall with 6 limbs and armored exoskeletons. They moved with terrible speed and purpose. But human weapons had been designed specifically to penetrate their armor. The first skirmish ended quickly, with the Krell forces retreating in what seemed like confusion. "They don't know how to react to us," said Lieutenant Jack Nelson. "It's like they've never faced an enemy that fights back effectively." They pushed forward, engaging more Krell forces. Susan noticed that the Krell seemed to hesitate when their comrades fell. It confirmed intelligence that they shared a linked consciousness. In orbit, the battle had turned decisively in Earth's favor. 17 Krell ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels began to retreat. "Don't let them escape," Frank ordered. "They'll warn the main hive." Earth ships pursued the fleeing Krell vessels. The new engines proved faster than expected. One by one, the Krell ships were caught and destroyed. On the surface, Susan's team reached the outer perimeter of the processing facility. What they saw inside filled them with cold fury. Thousands of Cerulean were held in terrible conditions, awaiting processing. "Breach the main doors," Susan ordered. "We're getting these people out now." The first major battle against the Krell was turning into a victory. But it was only the beginning of what would become the largest war in human history. Victory celebrations after the first battle were cut short. 6 months later, long-range sensors detected a massive Krell fleet heading straight for the solar system. The Krell had learned about Earth sooner than expected. Vice Admiral Paul Martinez stood in the Mars Defense Command Center. Screens showed the approaching enemy fleet, over 500 vessels, far more than intelligence had predicted. "They're moving faster than we thought possible," said his strategic officer. "They'll reach Mars orbit in 12 hours. Paul looked at the deployment map. Earth had built impressive defenses, but many ships were still under construction or deployed elsewhere. The Krell had timed their attack perfectly. "Evacuate all civilian personnel from Mars and Europa colonies," Paul ordered. "Move them to the underground shelters on Earth. All available ships to defensive positions." On Earth, Dr. Olivia Bennett worked frantically in her lab. Her signal disruption device was only partly tested, but they had run out of time. "It should work," she told General Carter. "The device mimics the control signals from Krell command ships. It will cause confusion in their ranks, at least temporarily." "How many do you have ready?" the general asked. "Only 3. We need to install them on our lid ships." The Krell struck Mars colony first. Despite fierce resistance, the human defenses fell quickly. The outer colonies had been prepared for evacuation, so civilian casualties were minimal, but the military losses were heavy. In his command ship above Earth, Vice Admiral Martinez watched the tactical feed with a grim face. "They're adapting to our tactics," he said. "They've studied our attack patterns from the first battle." Earth's remaining fleet formed a defensive line between the Moon and Earth, 300 ships against 500 Krell vessels. The odds were not good. "Install Dr. Bennett's devices on the Defiance, Courage, and Liberty," Paul ordered. "Position them at the center of our formation." The Krell fleet approached in a tight formation. They had learned from their earlier defeat and moved with more coordination than before. The Battle of Earth's orbit began with a massive exchange of fire. Earth ships used the Moon for cover, striking at the edges of the Krell formation. The new human weapons worked well, but the Krell had also improved their defenses. "We're taking heavy losses," reported the tactical officer. 30% of our fleet is already disabled or destroyed." Paul studied the enemy formation. "They're being directed more efficiently than before. Find their command ships." Analysis identified 5 larger vessels at the rear of the Krell fleet. They seemed to be coordinating the attack. "Those must be their thinker ships," Dr. Bennett said. She had joined the command staff to monitor her devices. "The specialized caste that directs the warriors." Colonel Susan Wright's voice came over the comm. "Vice Admiral, my team can target those command ships. We've modified a stealth transport with Cerulean cloaking technology." Paul considered the risks. "It's a suicide mission, Colonel." "Maybe not," Susan replied. "But even if it is, we're losing this battle. This might be our only chance." Paul gave his approval. Susan's ship, carrying 20 elite soldiers and one of Dr. Bennett's devices, slipped away from the main battle. Using the chaos as cover, they approached the rear of the Krell formation. The human fleet fought desperately to buy them time. Each minute, more Earth ships were lost. The Krell pushed closer to Earth, their weapons now targeting the orbital defense platforms. Susan's team reached the largest Krell command ship. Using cutting tools, they created an entry point in its hull. Inside, they encountered strange organic technology and larger Krell with oversized head structures. "These must be the thinkers," Susan told her team. "Plant the device near that central node." As they worked, they were discovered. Krell warriors converged on their position. Susan and her soldiers fought fiercely, holding the enemy back long enough to activate the device. The effect was immediate, but came at a terrible cost. The Krell ships near the command vessel began moving erratically, firing in random directions or not at all. The coordination of their attack fell apart. But Susan and her team were surrounded. Her final transmission came through with static. Device active. Effect spreading to other command ships. Tell Earth, it was worth it. In the command center, Paul watched as the Krell fleet fell into disarray. Without clear direction, the warrior caste became confused and ineffective. Earth ships pressed the advantage, targeting the now vulnerable enemy vessels. The battle turned. Hour by hour, the Krell were pushed back beyond the moon, then past Mars' orbit. The cost had been enormous. Over half of Earth's fleet was destroyed. Colonel Wright and her entire team were lost. But Earth had survived its first direct assault, and humanity had learned something crucial about their enemy. The Krell could be beaten. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, President Christopher Mason stood before the rebuilt Security Council. The room was packed with military leaders and representatives from 15 alien species who had joined the alliance against the Krell. Operation Sunfall is now ready, President Mason announced. For too long, we have been fighting defensive battles. Now we take the war to the Krell homeworlds. Admiral Frank Davis approached the holographic display. Our fleet now numbers over 1,000 ships. We've combined Earth technology with contributions from all our allies. The Cerulean stealth systems, the Vorn energy weapons, the Teleri shield technology. Together they make our ships more powerful than anything we've fielded before. The display showed the Krell home systems, 7 planets around a red sun. Intelligence gathered from freed prisoners had finally revealed their location. This will not be a war of conquest, President Mason continued. But the Krell threat must be ended permanently. They have shown no interest in communication or peace. They recognize only dominance or submission. The largest fleet in the history of known space gathered at the edge of human territory. Ships of various designs and colors formed battle groups. Admiral Davis commanded from the new flagship Justice, built to replace the battle-scarred Defiance. Captain Lisa Murphy, who had first greeted the Cerulean refugees 2 years ago, now commanded her own carrier group. Her mission was to locate and free any remaining harvested civilizations. All ships report ready, Admiral, she told Frank over the comm. Then let Operation Sunfall begin, he replied. The fleet jumped to its first target, a major Krell outpost that served as a forward base. The battle was fierce but quick. Human and allied tactics had evolved to exploit every Krell weakness. System by system, the Alliance pushed toward the Krell home planets. They freed countless prisoners from processing centers. Some were Cerulean, but many were from species previously unknown, all victims of the Krell harvest. The Krell fought savagely as the Alliance approached their core systems. They sacrificed entire fleets to slow the human advance, but they could not match the combined technology and determination of so many united species. Dr. Olivia Bennett had refined her disruption technology. Each allied ship now carried devices that confused the Krell command structure. Without clear direction, many Krell warriors simply shut down or acted erratically. In the final push to the Krell homeworld, Admiral Davis gathered his commanders. Intelligence has located their central hive mind, he told them. It's a massive organic computer that directs all Krell activities across the galaxy. If we destroy it, the entire species will lose coordination. Lisa looked troubled. That would effectively end them as a civilization. Is that what we want? Frank nodded. We've tried to communicate with them 67 times during this campaign. They respond only with attacks. They see other species as either threats or food. The central hive mind has directed the extermination of 53 civilizations that we know of. We can't allow that to continue. The final battle took place in orbit around the Krell homeworld. Their remaining ships fought with desperate intensity. For hours, the space around the red planet flashed with weapons fire. Lisa's carrier group broke through the defensive line. They launched targeted strikes against the surface installation that housed the central hive mind. Krell ground forces swarmed to protect it, but the combined Allied forces overwhelmed them. When the central node was finally destroyed, the effect was immediate and galaxy-wide. Krell ships stopped in mid-maneuver. Ground forces collapsed. The entire species went silent. 1 month later, representatives from all allied species gathered on Earth. A memorial had been built to honor those lost in the war. The names of Colonel Susan Wright and her team held a special place of honor. President Mason addressed the assembly. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for all our peoples. What began with a desperate plea for help has resulted in an alliance unlike any seen before. Zor-El, the Cerulean ambassador who had first come to Earth, stood beside him. His skin glowed with bright patterns of joy and gratitude. When we begged for help, humanity answered with total war, Zor-El said. Not for conquest, not for power, but because it was right. Because no species should face extinction alone. He looked out at the gathered representatives. Let all who hear this story know, the friends of humanity are protected, and those who threaten the innocent will face humanity's full might. The memorial was dedicated with a simple message. For those who stood against extinction, for those who fought so others might live. The war was over, the healing had begun, and humanity had taken its place among the stars not just as warriors, but as protectors.